This is all that remains of Nabudis. 2 years ago it was destroyed utterly by a mysterious force. The work of the Midlight Shard. As the Dawn Shard brought down the Leviathan and her fleet, a fell mist spilled forth. It is like the same thing happened here. The Nethicite's mist has corrupted the life of this place. It is a necrohall overrun with beasts. We tread here on a fool's errand. We'd best turn back.
The existence of how Nabudis fell has always been a terrifying yet significant piece that played within Ivalice's history. With what we know, the once proud city that stood as Nabradia's capital suddenly fell within the space of a night by a mysterious force, leaving behind the ghostly remnants of the palace and turning the surrounding area around it into a barren waste covered by a swirling mist to be tainted for eternity. There is a bit of detail that surrounds the events, which was when Bosch heeded the words of Nabudis' fall to Lord Romanus, as well as when Redis reminisced about his unwearying past. But from there, unless players went out of their way to the Necro of Nabudis, nothing else was ever really touched on or explained. So today, we'll be looking into the deepest reaches of the past to see what really was the cause to this cataclysm, even though many still don't fully understand how such a great city disappeared off the face of Ivalice. Much of Ivalice's history was lost amongst the passages of time. Though recovered records that predated back during what was called the Age of Gods, the Acuria were responsible for much of the development of Ivalice, and with it looked down upon the land where their rule was to be absolute. It was suggested, given the Altap rumors, that around this time the Acuria lived among other civilizations, and with all being done in accordance to their will. But to those who were under their rule, were to soon witness that their gods suddenly withdrew themselves from history's stage. And with the vacuum left behind, Ivalice fell into chaos, where war waged all across the land as the world searched for direction without its former leaders. Though the Acuria are concerned with controlling the course of Ivalice's history, it wasn't until around 700 OC where they sought to find a race to take up the mantle of responsibility to whom they could influence into making them do their bidding. The Acuria approached the Garif and tried to sway their decision, granting them the power to wield de-affected Nethicite. Unfortunately, when the Garif proved that they were unable to wield and control these magical stones, the Acuria soon withdrew their gift. Displeased by the Garif's failure, another was chosen in their place, a nobleman from a small country in the Valadian continent, a nobleman by the name of Wraithwall. Around this time, it was unknown, but Wraithwall struck down and bound one of the Acuria's creations, Belias, and with it they saw the potential and power within this king, granting him the sword that would soon become known as the Sword of Kings. With war consuming Ivalice, the Acuria now had their puppet to string the tides of history to what they deemed appropriate, and with the course set, sent Wraithwall to the Pharaohs to cut 3 shards from their Suncrist, and with it, a mission: the unification of Ivalice. With formidable power, Wraithwall began his conquest, with the Acuria influencing each outcome, destroying and subjugating other nations across the land as the Acuria themselves saw fit. Starting in his home continent of Valindia, Wraithwall's power was unmatched, as he and his army struck down each opposition that stood before him, and with these, both Ordalia and Kurwan were under his control, thus putting an end to this bloody conquest, stopping the war all across Ivalice, and unifying all the great nations of the world. With a golden age beginning, Wraithwall would be given the title as the first Dynast King, and with it forged what is known as the Galtian Alliance, and thus the start of the old Valadian calendar begun. It was known that during this time, many great nations and empires such as Rosaria and Arcadia rose. Though the land knew of peace during these times, the Acuria chose Wraithwall's lineage to be the ones who led Ivalice towards the direction they wished. During his rule, Wraithwall kept the Dawn Shard for himself and his direct descendants, but passed down the Midlight Shard and the Dust Shard onto his descendants in the ruling families of Dalmasca and Nabradia. With all that he surveyed, Wraithwall was known to be a benevolent and just king, guiding the Alliance for near half a century. But around the year of 44 OV, tragedy swept over Ivalice as its Dynast King's life came to an end. and so a change in history would forever shape the future of what was known as the Galtian Alliance. With Wraithwall's passing, his eldest son inherited House Galtea, along with the Dawn Shard. His second son Banargan would inherit the Dust Shard along with the founding of House Dalmasca, and his third son Hios would inherit the Midlight Shard and the founding of House Nabradia. Though the Alliance held firm and knew peace and prosperity for nearly 400 years, whispers of independence began to spread and flourish with the passing of Wraithwall's direct descendants of House Galtea in the year of 392 OV. With history's course diverted, the Alliance dissolved in the year of 394 OV, transpiring what is known as the formation of countries, and with it, Nabradia along with Dalmasca broke away from the Alliance, thus founding their respective kingdoms, with Nabudis and Rabanastre appointed as their capitals. With the formation of the modern world taking stage, the neighboring empires of both Arcadia and Rosaria began expanding their land, but as Rosaria halted their advances, Arcadia continued without mercy, consuming nearby nations, taking their lands, and ruled over them with the same level of law as in their capital. With Arcadia wanting to rule over Ivalice and Rosaria wanting to stop them, both kingdoms of Dalmasca and Nabradia were stuck in between amongst the hellfires of war, to which set the stage for the beginning of one of the darkest moments within Ivalice, known as the Death of Kingdoms. During the midst of this time, lead researcher Dr. Sid traveled to Yak Defo on an expedition into the mist-covered waste. Now, it's not known whether it was a primarily exploration-driven mission, or if he already had some idea of what it is he was looking for and what he would find there. Either way, he stumbled across the ancient city of Girvegan, where he met with the rogue Curia Vana, and discovered the nature of the Stone of the Gods, Nethicite. Vana took Sid in as their pupil and taught him how to synthesize artificial Nethicite, which became to be known as manufactured Nethicite. During Arcadia's conquest, Dr. Sid found the Midlight Shard in the kingdom of Nabradia, and recognizing it as day-affected Nethicite, he ordered Judge Zek to use the stone at Nabudis. Eager to see its power, the resulting explosion was catastrophic, sinking Nabudis into a chasm, and the outcome was more horrible than anyone could ever imagine. The once proud, prosperous city was reduced to nothing but charred rubble and echoes within the space of a night. Where people once walked and lived peacefully amongst the streets, now lays a barren waste covered by a thick mist, with the souls of the Nabradian and Arcadian soldiers killed in the destruction, full of regret and resentment. The fall of Nabudis was a tragic tale, but given how the Acuria were supposed to be the stewards of Ivalice moving forward, I feel like they did quite terribly at their roles as gods. Though it was interesting to think about how these outcomes would have been played out if certain paths were taken. Perhaps if they would have stayed among the ancient civilizations they built, assuring that their rule was absolute, I feel that history's flow would have taken a different course and chaos wouldn't have ensued over the land. Or if history continued on its path like it did, and if Wraithwall's descendants would have upheld the Galtian Alliance even after House Galtea's passing, instead of breaking away from the Alliance, maybe, just maybe, they could have prevented the neighboring invasions, halted Vana, Sid's, and Vane's plan, and still held over being the rightful rulers of Ivalice. But I feel that history weaves its own mysteries and are just better left unknown. So I wanted to thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, feel free to leave a like and share the video as well. If you want to support the channel, subscribe and don't forget to enable that notification button for all upcoming videos. I know I mentioned about asking you guys questions that could regard to anything in general, so I'll go ahead and start off by asking you on what is it that drew you into Final Fantasy XII? Leave your comment down below along with your question and I'll answer them on my next video. Thanks again everyone for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next one.